Damn, where's the words?
Alright guys, I had to cut yesterday a little bit short. I had some stuff come up that's none of your business. And anyway, I've got Cinnamon with an S back out here today. And you'll notice, maybe you won't notice, that now I have this nice blue anodized 45-degree ambi safety selector on here. And I also have a Magpul bad lever on here. Having ambi controls is a little bit more important for me now than it used to be. I used to never have ambi controls on my guns, but because this hand doesn't quite do what I want it to sometimes, it's easier for me to do all my manipulations with my right hand. Anyway, I've got my lab radar set up. The ammo that I'm shooting today, right now, is the 80 grain ELDM. So I'm actually switching it up from the 75 grain Hornady that I have been shooting. The 75 grain Hornadys were just to break the barrel in, and this will actually probably be my match load. However, I was looking at the BC on the 75 grain ELDM and the potential for velocity gain and weighing out if that would be more advantageous at the velocity I could potentially get from that versus what I can get for this 80 grain ELDM. I'll try to make a decision on that before a match, probably, allegedly. Anyway, I'm going to load these rounds up into the gun, and I'm going to grab some velocity data. Barrel's broke in, gun's ready to go. The projected velocity for this load that I'm shooting today, which is the 80 grain ELDM over 29 grains of H4350, is 2743. And we'll see how close we are to that with the lab radar. Let's stick this Duramag in here. It's a Duramag. Alright, let's send that bolt home with a bad lever. Feels like it chambered. Arm the lab radar. Flip to fire. I'm going to go for the big diamond in the center. With the exception of the cold bore, clean bore shot, the rest all grouped together pretty nicely. Not as good as one of the last groups I got yesterday. But something very surprising to me right now is the velocity. It is 100 feet per second faster than what quick load projected. So I'm definitely going to need to check for pressure on this brass. But let's, yeah, exactly 100 feet per second faster. 2841 was my average velocity. The high was 2891. The low was 2815. Ooh, that's a big fucking gap. Extreme spread of 76. Standard deviation of 30.6. I'm hoping that those that standard deviation and such will go down whenever I refine the load a little bit more. I am using a very stable and typically considered to be a good powder. Let's check this brass out. So that was actually the velocity that I was intending on achieving with this 80 grain ELDM right there off of the first, off of the first batch that I loaded of that. But also, the brass generally looks good. All of them look good except one. One of them, the the primer is punched, which is obviously a pressure sign. I'm going to go inside and measure the web of the cases and see what's going on with that, and then I will probably come back out and shoot a little bit more, allegedly. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I just loaded up 10 more rounds. Just loaded up 10 more rounds of the 80 grain ELDMs. Yes, there is a ring at the top of them. No, I am not using the proper seating stem for ELDMs. It's on the way from Midway USA. I'm going to load up all 10 rounds into this magazine, this Clipazine, and I'm going to fire all 10 of these rounds and grab some velocity data now that I have a fouled bore. Yeah, looks like it needs to come right about 4/10. Alright guys, 10 rounds about to go down the pipe. I'll be aiming at the top left diamond this time. Let's arm the lab radar. Actually, let's unarm the lab radar. Let's put a bullet in the chamber. Now let's arm the lab radar. And let's go for that top left. Here. The lab radar only picked up 2 out of those 10 shots, and I don't know why, because I moved it around. I made sure that it was on target. I set it and reset it. That is strange. The 2 shots that it picked up were 28-22 and let's go back to the list. 28-22 and 28-68. It's odd. Shot group's not great either. You know what? I was having problems with my lab radar when I left it out in the sun before. I left it out in the sun between these 2 shot groups that I just did. So it might be overheated. That might be a thing. The brass is starting to show pressure signs, and by that I mean all the primers still look nice and round, and actually I don't see any primer flow going on, but I did punch 1 primer. So, and not a complete primer ejection, I just punched a hole in it with my firing pin. So that is a pressure sign. Alright guys, so at 29 grains, I did punch 1 primer, and to me that's 1 primer too many. The web of the case only grew 2 thousandths, but it was still under the 0.44 for the case head. So I loaded these up at 28.5, still using the same case overall length and everything like that. I'm waiting to actually do my true load development, because I'm still breaking in the barrel. I've still got less than 100 rounds on this barrel. I'm going to start doing my true load development whenever, that was a B. I'll start doing true load development for this after the barrel is completely broke in, and whenever the seating stem that I ordered for the 80 grain ELDMs comes in. So right now I'm going to grab some velocity data. I have 10 rounds of 80 grain ELDM 224 Predator 22 Grendel, whatever you want to call it today, loaded up for old Cinnamon to enjoy here. Cinnamon with an S. And let's see how she do. 28.5 grains of H4350 Duramag Clipazine. Alright, that's a little better. Fuck off, B. It appears that the velocity was tracking with where I expected it to be, roughly high 27, like near 2790, 2800 is what I was hoping for out of this charge. I had some pretty high, some pretty low, so I'm pretty sure my extreme spread is going to be just that. Extreme. Let's take a look. Alright, my average velocity was 2802, tracking right with where I was hoping it would. My highest was 2855. I believe that was actually the first round out of the gun. The low was 2764. My extreme spread was 91. Standard deviation was 26.2. Number of shots, 10. So the very first shot was 2855. And that was absolutely the fastest shot by far. I'm going to delete that shot out of there. So my low one was substantially lower than the others at 2764. I'm going to delete that one too. Why not? This is not scientific or anything, it's just something I'm doing. Alright, so now let's go back to the list. Okay, so if I take away the highest and lowest, which were pretty far extremes, my average is 2801, so still right there at the same average. High would be 2826, low would be 2780, extreme spread 46, standard deviation 16.5. When I actually start loading this up for competition, I would run those numbers. Like those are the numbers that I'm looking for. And depending on what this brass looks like, that might just be the difference in me playing with primers, which I intend on switching from the CCI number 400 primers to the 450 primers, and that can sometimes change your standard deviation and extreme spread. So let's take a look at this brass. Gangbang going on in here. There we go. Alright. Take a look at this brass. Those two look good. Look good. Good. all the primers look good except for one. I've got one punched primer, and dollars to donuts, I'm gonna go ahead and say that that was probably the high. That was outside of the range of all of the other ones. I'm really enjoying this cartridge so far. I'm trying to be very careful with my load development. I know there are a lot of guys who try to squeeze every little bit of velocity that they can out of these things, and sometimes they're just not made for that, you know. Also, they try to jam the heaviest fucking bullet they can find on top of it too. When you plug it into a ballistic calculator though, sometimes you find out that a lighter bullet going the faster speed beats out the higher BC heavier bullet because of how much velocity it uses. When my new seating stem comes in, and when the small rifle Magnum primers, the CCI number 400s, come in, then I will shoot this same load, make sure that the velocity still tracks. Hopefully it lowers that standard deviation and extreme spread. And if that is the case, I will continue with this charge, roughly 2,800 feet per second. That's my goal. 2,800 feet per second, and I will play with seating depth to try to get the best precision out of this cartridge.